Hey everybody, it's Roxanne again with Normal Life with Epilepsy, podcast number 2. The ending of the last one, I had just gotten out of school to do ultrasound. Well, believe it or not, there wasn't any job positions that were open, and thank goodness though, I was offered a job with the last place that I was graded at, the hospital, and they offered me a job because they were going to have to start taking call and during the weekends. So, of course, I told myself I was not going to get another job other than what I went to college for. So I definitely said yes. That was wonderful. And being able to work there, doing scans, getting more job experience with doing ultrasounds, that was great because I found out from another person that I had talked to after getting out of school that there was another hospital that would love to have an extra person to take call during the week. So I worked around taking call for the first hospital and then took call during the weekdays for the other hospital. And I thought, wow, well, maybe this will get my foot in the door to either place if someone quit. And also making money. Well, I had gotten married and working very happily, and all of a sudden, a person quit at the second place that offered me weeknights. So I definitely applied and said yes for the position. Loved it. Took call again with them for the weekdays and weekends. And one thing, me and my husband had to move closer to the hospital. So getting out of town, 30 minutes away from family and being on our own was wonderful, I thought. So I had to move closer due to call. Me and this other lady that I worked with decided to divide the call week after week. She would take one and then I would take the next week because the other lady we worked with had a family. And we didn't want her to, miss being with them because neither one of us had any kids yet. And also, it helped making more money, and that was good too. But I started not getting a lot of sleep, and I had started taking birth control pills. So this, after a couple of years of doing that, all of a sudden I was driving home and I found myself on the other side of the road and this person just blowing their horn at me. And I realized, wow, whoa, what happened? This happened while I was driving. This is not good. So, knowing that I had epilepsy, I was very scared that it had come back. So, decided to go to a neurologist, had my mom go with me, and he asked all these questions. And one thing that I didn't know that my mom answered was I had a high fever when I was a baby. And that was a shocker. I looked at her and I said, really? So the doctor all of a sudden gave his, reason for why I had them. He said, you have left mesial temporal sclerosis. I said, okay. He described it, after having the high fever, it left scar tissue in the temporal lobe. So he said, go get an MRI, get these extra views, and that way we'll know definitely that that's what's causing your seizures. So, working with the hospital, I went there, to have the MRI, and had the radiologist. He showed me the views and the films, and I knew a little about MRI and what it looked like because it just, close enough to a CT scan for me. Um, he pulled the pictures up and pointed to the area that was causing them. And he said, your neurologist was correct. You have left mesial temporal sclerosis. That was a shocker. Wasn't explaining that. And it it just, it was like, oh no, I don't want to have anymore. I want to be able to drive. I want to be able to live a normal life. But when the neurologist got the results, we already made another appointment, and he said that we could increase the medicine the next time you come in that I was on, so to see if that helped. Well, surprise, surprise, I found out I was pregnant before my second appointment with the neurologist. Now, I'm going to get a little funny here because this is something I'll never forget. My husband never comes home before me, is never there. But the day I bought a birth control to bring home to test, he was there. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to hide this test and go to the bathroom real quick. So, shocking to him, after I walked out of the bathroom, I held up the pregnancy test and said, I think this thing's wrong. I still think that the look on his face and not knowing that that was what I was even doing, um, I told him, go get another one. So he got a second one. And boom, quick as could be, it turned positive. And after that, I said, I have to call one of the radiologists and see if I can get blood tests done. I just have to know. So called them. He said, well, I'm not able to order anything like that. So I'll go and talk to the emergency room doctor. So hung up, waiting, waiting, waiting. He calls me back and he's laughing. I said, okay, what did they say? Can I go get the test done, blood work? And he laughed again. He said, no, the ER docs that I talked to said there is no reason to get any blood work because those tests you take home are 99% with, predicting whether or not you were pregnant. Um, so they're 99% correct, excuse me. And that was a shocker. Sat down and said, well, I guess we have to call our parents. So that was the funny part. But the bad part was going to I'm sorry, it wasn't bad. The next time I went to the neurologist, he said, well, we're not going to increase your medication now because you're pregnant. But you are on a good medication, Tegretol, which only birth defect it can cause is increasing spina bifida by 1%, and which makes it only 2% chance that I could deliver a baby with spina bifida, which is where the spine it doesn't close. The spine doesn't close all the way, and being an ultrasound tech, definitely got to get scanned a lot and saw that everything was normal. So that was great news. But started having more of my seizures where I just stare. I had 10 to 15 a month. Pretty good pregnancy for not having any problems, was great. Just waiting to deliver and uh, having a little one at home now is the thing that would change my life, and we will talk about that next. And thank you for listening to Normal Life with Epilepsy, and I hope you enjoyed this one with a little laugh this time, and I want to thank you. Bye.